It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
Disney, the undisputed king of animated classics, decided to revisit one of their crown jewels, Snow White. A live-action remake was announced, promising a fresh, modern take on the timeless story. They poured in a hefty budget, cast rising star Rachel Zegler as Snow White and the established Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Everything pointed towards another Disney triumph. The original Snow White is iconic, practically part of our cultural DNA. This remake was supposed to be a guaranteed win, a nostalgic crowd pleaser for a new generation, but somewhere along the way the magic vanished, replaced by something much darker and far more dramatic.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
Almost immediately, whispers of unease began to circulate. Details about the adaptation started leaking, and fans noticed something was different. This wasn't going to be a simple retelling. Key elements of the story, themes that had resonated for generations, were being reimagined. Words like modernized and updated started floating around. While some were intrigued by the idea of a fresh perspective, many others felt a sense of growing apprehension. Was Disney about to tamper with something sacred? Was this update going to stray too far from the heart of the beloved fairy tale? These initial questions were just the tip of the iceberg.
Our rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
Come on.
That's the face of a serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
Initially, the casting of Rachel Zegler was seen as a masterstroke. A young, talented actress with a powerful voice, she seemed perfect to breathe new life into Snow White. She represented a bridge between the classic and the contemporary. Here was someone who could connect with younger audiences while still honoring the spirit of the original. There was a sense of excitement, a feeling that Disney had found the right person to lead this ambitious project. Zegler herself seemed enthusiastic, ready to take on this iconic role and introduce Snow White to a new era. But this initial optimism wouldn't last.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
So we didn't do that this time.
Then came the first wave of comments that set the internet ablaze. Rachel Zegler in interviews began to express her vision for the character, and it was unexpected. She stated quite plainly that this Snow White wouldn't be saved by the prince and wasn't dreaming about true love. Instead, she was focused on becoming the leader she knows she can be. While some applauded this portrayal of a stronger, more independent Snow White, a significant portion of the audience was taken aback. This felt like a fundamental departure from the fairy tale they knew and loved. The phrase "not saved by the prince" became a lightning rod, sparking intense debate and dividing fans.
But the primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
The online reaction was swift and brutal. Social media erupted with negativity. The hashtag #NotMySnowWhite started trending, fueled by furious comments and accusations that Disney was ruining a classic. Fans felt betrayed. They interpreted Zegler's remarks as dismissive of the original story, even condescending towards those who cherished it. Phrases like outdated and artifact of a bygone era attributed to Zegler's tone further inflamed the situation. Instead of embracing Zegler as a modern Snow White, many fans began to see her as a symbol of everything they feared about this adaptation, a forced update that sacrificed the magic for a message. The online backlash was relentless, a growing storm of discontent.
You don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely when it got announced.
He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
Thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
Recognizing the escalating crisis, Disney's PR machine sprang into action. The strategy? Damage control. They organized a series of talk show appearances for Rachel Zegler, hoping to smooth things over, clarify her statements, and win back the wavering audience.
The goal was to restore faith in the film before it even hit theaters, to ensure that the negativity wouldn't overshadow opening weekend. Disney, with its vast experience in managing public image, believed they could steer the narrative back on course. They aimed to present a unified front, showcasing the film as modern yet still respectful of the original. But they were about to discover that controlling Rachel Zegler was proving to be challenging.
And so it was like
those people.
Very much this, yes. It was this
people that we
awakening
need to educate, the people that we need to love into awareness.
love them in the right direction.
One of the chosen platforms for this PR offensive was The View, a daytime talk show known for its mainstream appeal and ability to engage in public conversations. Disney's PR team saw it as a comfortable environment where Zegler could connect with viewers, address their concerns, and showcase the film's positive aspects. Behind the scenes, however, tensions were brewing. Reports suggest that production staff from The View received direct instructions from Disney about preferred talking points, areas to emphasize, and angles to avoid. Disney wanted to control the message to ensure Zegler stayed on script. But as soon as the cameras started rolling, it became clear that Rachel Zegler had her own agenda. The View, intended as a safe space, was about to become a battleground.
We need to no, you don't. It's not your job. Your job is to entertain. You are paid to entertain.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
The segment on The View began innocently enough, but it quickly became apparent that Rachel Zegler was not interested in reciting pre-approved lines. She veered off topic, wanting to discuss political matters unrelated to the film. She showed little inclination to follow Disney's carefully crafted messaging. As the show's producers frantically tried to steer her back, Zegler doubled down, making statements that critics would later call incendiary. She suggested that the original story's themes were outdated and that audiences clinging to nostalgia needed to embrace change. For fans already on the fence, these comments were perceived as a direct insult, igniting a fresh wave of anger. Then the real meltdown occurred. Eyewitness accounts describe frantic gestures off camera, producers desperately trying to cut Zegler off or pivot the conversation. But she was unyielding, her remarks spiraling further out of control. The segment descended into chaos so rapidly that the hosts were visibly scrambling to fill airtime. Ultimately, security or staff escorted Zegler from the set, and the broadcast abruptly cut to commercial. The meltdown itself was never fully aired, but partial clips and secondhand reports exploded online within minutes.
It basically, this movie was like you took the original Snow White and just put everything through this filter of liberalism. It wasn't through a filter of Japanese anime, it was through a filter of liberalism. And so I've got some bona fides here on being fair. The movie was absolutely terrible.
The aftermath was a media firestorm. The meltdown became instant internet fodder. Memes, jokes, and a torrent of outrage flooded social media. Every subsequent discussion about the film inevitably circled back to that chaotic live TV appearance. The meltdown overshadowed everything: the cast, the visuals, even the story itself. It became the defining narrative of the Snow White remake. The internet was relentless, amplifying the negative buzz and turning the film into a punchline. Disney's carefully constructed image was taking a serious beating. The meltdown wasn't just a PR problem, it was becoming a cultural phenomenon of negativity.
In every way that the movie differed from the beloved 1937 original, it was worse.
Even prominent voices outside of mainstream media weighed in. Joe Rogan, on his massively popular podcast, dissected the fiasco in painstaking detail. He called the meltdown a PR nightmare and described AMC's later decision to pull the film as a cultural moment. Rogan argued that the meltdown exposed a critical turning point, a moment where audiences visibly demonstrated that Disney's usual advantages, brand loyalty, marketing prowess, star power, were no longer guarantees of success. He framed it as a watershed moment, signaling a shift in audience perception and studio vulnerability. Rogan's analysis added another layer of weight to the disaster, solidifying the meltdown as a significant event in Hollywood history.
So from the casting to the class politics, the sexual politics, the regime politics, everything about it was liberal.
Then came the truly shocking development. AMC, one of the largest theater chains in America, announced it was removing the live-action Snow White from all its theaters. This was unprecedented for a major Disney title. Sales had plummeted so drastically that continuing to show the film was simply losing money. Empty seats filled auditoriums that could have been used for more profitable movies. Industry veterans were stunned. Pulling a Disney movie, especially one with this level of hype, was unheard of. AMC's decision sent shockwaves through Hollywood, a stark and undeniable sign of the film's catastrophic failure. It was the ultimate confirmation that The Meltdown had done irreparable damage.
Snow White is generally understood to be a very, very white person. And in this case, they decided, nope, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't think we're allowed to say that, right? I was referring to the movie as sand beige.
The Snow White debacle sent a chilling message to studios everywhere. It exposed the fragility of even the biggest brands when faced with public backlash and PR missteps. Disney, in particular, faced intense scrutiny. Questions arose about their creative approach to remakes, their handling of controversy, and their relationship with their stars. Rachel Zegler, once a rising star, suddenly found herself labeled with the dreaded term box office poison. Her future roles would undoubtedly be viewed with increased caution. The Meltdown became a cautionary tale about the delicate balance between modernizing classics and respecting their legacy, between creative freedom and corporate messaging.
Yeah, I have a clip of it.
Oh, okay, great.
Her being a retard.
Okay.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
That laugh.
That is
not going to be saved by
You
the
wrote
prince.
it?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
In the end, Disney's live-action Snow White will be remembered not for its updated themes or star cast, but for the spectacular meltdown that derailed it. It's a story of good intentions gone wrong, of a PR disaster amplified by social media, and of a cultural disconnect that proved fatal to a once promising project. The meltdown on The View wasn't just an awkward TV moment. It was the catalyst that exposed deep-seated audience anxieties and ultimately led to the unprecedented removal of a major Disney film from theaters. This Snow White became a stark reminder: in today's world, even the most beloved stories and powerful studios are vulnerable to the swift and unforgiving judgment of the audience, and sometimes a single live TV appearance can be all it takes to turn a fairy tale into a full-blown Hollywood disaster.